Kids are awesome at malicious compliance, but it is a two-way street. Smile. My kids can be picky eaters at times. My wife made some darn good chicken soup, but the kids were complaining that there were veggies in their chicken soup. They hate veggies, veggies make them sick, and they wanted my wife to pick them out of the soup. We tried to tell them that good chicken soup needs veggies to taste good, but they were being stubborn. I'm sure other parents can understand. I told the kids, if you really hate the taste of veggies, I'll make soup tomorrow, and you guys can make sure I only put stuff in you like. They liked that idea, at the time. The next day, I get the pot filled with water, all the typical soup ingredients out, and gathered the kids. I asked for their approval on every item. Chicken, yes. Salt, yes. Black pepper, no. Gross, too spicy. Celery, no. I can't even stand the smell. Onions, no. It went on with that, with them rejecting parsley, bay leaves, and other veggies. The total contents of the pot ended up being chicken, water, salt, noodles. After the soup was done cooking, I served it up and they excitedly started to eat. A few funny faces later, and one of them said, "It tastes weird, this isn't very good." I said, "But I only put in everything you guys approved. I think, from now on, I should make the soup, right?" They looked at each other and said, "Can we have mom's soup instead?" Since that day, they haven't complained about finding veggies mixed in the food. Sure, they almost always eat around a carrot or green pea, but they understand that it adds flavor. Doctor at the end. New neighbors just moved into a house down the street. We have seen each other a couple of times from quite far distance, but we didn't have a chance to talk yet. Only thing I knew, he was living with his daughter, since I saw them getting out of the house for a walk couple of times. It was the day before my daughter's birthday when I decided I will go to them, introduce myself and ask if his daughter would like to come over for my daughter's birthday party tomorrow. I thought it's a great way to get to know them better. So I knocked. The guy opened the door, I introduced myself, said I live nearby blah blah, and said my daughter's having a small birthday party tomorrow and I believe it's a perfect way for his daughter to meet the other kids from the neighborhood and have some good time. The guy gave me a weird look and at this point I was wondering if I said something wrong, sounded creepy or whatever, so I added, "If you feel more comfortable, you can stay as well." He exhaled and at that point I was pretty much sure I did a major FU. I don't have a daughter. Who you are referring to is probably my wife. She's just short. We've moved out shortly after. Doctor, I asked my new neighbor if his daughter would like to attend my daughter's birthday party. Turns out it's his wife who's short. This happened to me yesterday at work. I'm not a server but a manager at a large outdoor restaurant on the water. Normally we just have people stand in line on the boardwalk and wait their turn, but with COVID we are forced to create a host stand, which was where I was for the day. It's a cloudless 92-degree day and we are on an hour or so wait. I'll also add that I am required to wear a mask around guests and that guests are required to wear masks to enter the restaurant, per the governor's orders. That last piece is important for the story. I call a party waiting for an hour up to the host stand to be sat. 2 men and a woman in their early 60s, biker types. I welcome them and say to them, "I do require that you wear masks while moving around on our property. Once you get to the table you can take them off. If you don't have a mask I have some I can provide." One guy starts shaking his head no and exclaims no. His wife, I assume, turns to him and says, "You only need it on for 30 seconds. He reaches for a mask and as he does he looks straight at me and just says "FKU." I look right back at him and after a 10 seconds pause I just say right back to him, very firmly, "I will not be spoken to that way and your party will not be getting sat today." He proceeded to throw the mask at me and huffed off while his wife yelled at him. It's not much, but there are so many rude people about and everyone wants not obey the simple rule of wearing a mask to walk around, which is the order of the governor to be able to open outdoor seating. Today is the 9-year anniversary of the disappearance of Maddie Scott. This is a decently well-known case and has been mentioned on this sub in the past. Since it's a pretty well-known case, I am posting this mostly because she disappeared 9 years ago to the day today. Maddie Scott was a 20-year-old who mysteriously vanished from a party/camping site in British Columbia, Canada. Scott attended the party with her friend and her friend's boyfriend. They all planned to camp the night, but after a disturbance which turned into a fight, her friend and her friend's boyfriend decided to leave. However, Maddie, who had already prepared everything and was in her sleeping bag, decided to stay. The next morning her friend returned to the campsite and while most of Maddie's stuff was still there, Maddie was gone. Also missing was Maddie's phone and car keys. Several theories have sprung up, First is two possible guys that were at the party. One of those guys Maddie was interested in dating, but he was not interested in her. I can't see any particular reason to suspect him, although I believe he is often included because he is one of the few guys there that Maddie would likely have consented to leaving with voluntarily, as there was no sign of a struggle and it appears she had time to collect her phone and keys. There was also another guy at the party. This man was very interested in dating Maddie, however Maddie was not interested in him. Some speculate that jealousy could have caused him to do something to Maddie. Other theories involve a stranger, either a random stranger or some say, known serial killer Israel Keys. However, these are often discounted because it would be unlikely a random stranger would just happen upon the campsite and abduct Maddie without a struggle. And the way she was taken doesn't match the way Israel Keys was known for selecting his victims. Lastly, there is a theory that there was some sort of accident. After all, this was a birthday party with drinking which even led to a fight earlier in the night. Some speculate she may have accidentally died in some manner. Perhaps she couldn't sleep and decided to go for a walk in the woods while still drunk and became lost? Did she try to swim in the nearby lake and her death was covered up? These are some speculations, but there is no evidence any of them actually occurred. So what happened 9 years ago today to Maddie Scott? Source: ETA, had to repost because of title error. On April 8, 1957, 28-year-old James Coe was killed on his way to work. Around 5:15 that morning, James climbed on his bicycle and headed to his part-time job at the municipal airport where he was a porter. The Indianapolis resident and father of 6, also worked part-time as a preacher. But even with both jobs, James couldn't afford a car and instead, rode his bicycle the 7 miles to the airport every morning. James had made it about 4 blocks from his home on Keystone Avenue, when a truck came speeding up from behind him. The truck struck James, crushing his head beneath the tires, killing him almost instantly. The driver fled the scene. A 16-year-old girl named Barbara who worked for the Indianapolis Star delivering newspapers, watched the scene unfold from 300 feet away. She told police that the driver of the apple green van-style truck had purposely hit James. She described seeing the vehicle approach James from behind. She said James looked panicked and attempted to move, but the driver altered his course and struck him. Afterwards, the driver of the vehicle stopped a short distance from where James had been hit. He got out the vehicle and approached James' body. He picked up something that Barbara could not identify, and tossed it into the back of his vehicle before fleeing the scene. The girl flagged down a passing truck driver who called for police. A search of James' wallet yielded possible clues to his murder. Police discovered 6 pictures of young teen girls, 3 of which had love notes scribbled on the backs. One read, "With love to Irvin. I'm looking forward to that date Saturday night." The picture was unsigned. Irvin was James' middle name. When questioned about the pictures, James' wife, Roberta, told police she had found them months ago, but when she asked James about them he refused to tell her who the teens were, or why he had their pictures in his wallet. Less than a week after James' death, Roberta began to get phone calls from an unknown man threatening her life and the life of her best friend. The phone calls prompted police to intensify their investigation, but their search for the vehicle, and for the identities of the girls in the photos, proved to be fruitless. James' case was never solved. Sources: clippings. I couldn't find any information on Google about James. All of the information I found came from the newspaper archives. So I'm only including this link per the requirements to post. This woman made a reservation and as per usual, we pre-authorized the room on the day of arrival. I pre-authorized right before I rolled over on it and I get a phone call right on cue. Woman calls me and is yelling right off the bat, demanding I explain why I charged her card. Told her we charge first night's room and tax as a no-show fee, unless the reservation was cancelled beforehand, and that this can be found in her confirmation letter that was sent to her email. Quick pause for a moment on her end, followed by a "well, I was going to cancel 5 minutes ago so you owe me a refund." And before I could even give her a reply, she just starts blowing up on me. I'm not even staying there. I booked the room to hold the room. The Indian lady who took my reservation never told me I would be charged. You owe me a refund. You're stealing my money. I want to cancel the room now. I'm calling to cancel it now. Blah blah blah. And once more, before I even get a chance to say what I need to say, a man grabs the phone and starts yelling and cursing at me. This lasts for a solid minute. I try to get a few words in and he just keeps cutting me off. What's funny is I would have refunded the room if they weren't such horrible people to begin with. Instead I just let them know, as they are screaming over me while I'm trying to talk, that they can contact management for a refund, and I hung up the phone. I'm tired of being screamed at all of time. Especially due to the whole virus thing, we've had a lot of policy changes that we have to enforce, and that's only led to more people screaming at all of us as we risk our health coming to work every day. Those people called me back a few times after I hung up, but I didn't answer. Why do people treat people like they're not human beings? I don't understand why anyone would just scream and curse at someone right from the jump without even at least attempting to be cordial. I've lost my patience. Edit, a few words. This is one of my favorite conversations I've ever had with an angry customer. Me equals me and AM equals angry man. AM, excuse me, is that self-checkout over there cash only? Me, yes sir. AM, well why isn't there a sign? Me, there is a sign. It's stuck to the side of the checkout so people can see it. AM, so you expect me to walk up to it to see the sign? There should be a standing sign at the end of the register. Me, unfortunately sir, we don't have freestanding signs and I'm only allowed to put the store-supplied signs on the register. AM, so you're allowed to waste your customers' time? Me, yes sir, have a good day. Also, he'd already checked out? At a regular register? He didn't even use the self-checkout? I live with my mother. I grew up on freezer foods. You could always find highly processed, high-calorie, microwavable meals in the freezer but never any vegetables in the refrigerator. I'm eating clean now. 3 weeks in, no refined sugars or carbs. No added sugar, no processed foods, no fast food. No special drinks, just water, and I eat mainly lean meats and veggies. I'm obese and so is my mother. She has been trying to lose weight for 17 years now, unsuccessfully. Now that I'm starting to feel better, eat clean, work out daily, my mom is consistently trying to offer me food that she knows I'm not wanting to eat. I've talked to her multiple times about the clean lifestyle I'm moving over to, but still, at least 4 times a week she wants me to eat lasagna, pizza, and fast food with her. BTW, she is an expert on weight loss and tells me I'm doing it wrong. Ugh. Gilgo Beach, Long Island, WABC. Suffolk County Police released the identity of a victim in the nearly decade-old Gilgo Beach murders as Valerie Mack. Mack, 24, had been Jane Doe number 6 in the investigation. She was working as an escort in Philadelphia at the time of her disappearance, and family members last saw her in the spring or summer of 2000 in the area of Port Republic, New Jersey. She also went by the name of Melissa Taylor. Mack's partial remains were found in a wooded area off Halsey Manor Road in Manorville the same year she went missing, and more than a decade later, her dismembered remains were found along Ocean Parkway. The police department worked with the FBI using DNA techniques to identify Mack. For 2 decades, Valerie Mack's family and friends were left searching for answers, and while this is not the outcome they wanted, we hope this brings some sense of peace and closure, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Geraldine Hart said. I would like to thank the FBI for its continued support and partnership in the Gilgo Beach homicide investigation and for their assistance utilizing scientific techniques that has moved this case forward. We will continue to use every investigative tool available to aggressively investigate these murders. Police are still searching for the person who killed 11 people whose remains were found at Gilgo Beach. Jane Doe number 6 reconstruction. Valerie Mack. I've been working my current post for about 3 years now. It is a rich gated community with 50-plus homes. My job is mainly to inspect people coming in and make sure they are either on a resident's guest list or call the resident they are coming for to see if they are okay to come in. I answer phone calls from residents who tell me when they are expecting guests so I can let them in. I call different services, police, fire, animal control, plumbers, etc., for them. Basically, I'm a receptionist with a security badge. 2 days after I finished training to be at this post, I had a lady drive up to my gate. So I approach her and say my normal hello, "How can I help you?" as I was trained to do when someone comes with a resident decal or pass. The gets mad and says that I should know who she is. She is the mother of ex-resident, how dare I not know her? When I explained how I'm new and didn't know everyone yet, she still got mad until she finally gave me her name so I could look her up. After confirming that she was ex-resident's mother, I told her she was free to go. She said, "You better not stop me next time. I never want to be stopped again. You should know everyone if you are going to work here." I laugh every time I see her. I remember that. Like, lady, I can't know you if I never met you before. What do you want? I know it's not the most interesting story, but every day when I see her I get a little laugh thinking about it. I have other stories about this community that are more interesting that I might post someday, but those require a lot my typing and I'm too lazy to write all that right now. When I stood up from lying down in just about couple seconds and I started feeling lightheaded followed by dizziness and a blurry vision. At this point I've realized I might end up fainting, so then the blackout vision hits me and my body collapses onto the floor with a static noise from my ears. It was instant, so I opened my eyes right away after falling down. I was in pain and confused to what just had happened. It was quite an unexpected experience. I thought maybe that I had realized that I would potentially faint. I could have possibly prevented it, but my body just took over completely. To conclude, I'm fine. And didn't injure myself, thankfully. This can teach everyone a valuable lesson, if anything, I hope. TLDR, stand up slowly when you're getting up from sitting or lying down. Long-time reader, first-time writer, blah blah blah. Thank you to everyone on this sub for getting me through many shifts in my career. Background: I am an AGM at a limited service property that is currently open. We over-authorize 50 as a security deposit, similar to most of you. I have had complaints about everything from being overcharged, to not getting deposit back, etc. etc. I often think of starting a thread of frequently asked stupid questions, but one day at a time. Outside line calls front desk. Demands a manager. Cue to me. I look up her reservation and a check-in her card is authorized for $275 per night, plus 50 security hold. At checkout, they charged $150, there were no damages or extra fees. So, after looking all this up and explaining to her all this, I ask what she is calling about because I still don't understand. She says she is disputing the $150. I asked if she did stay with us the 2 nights and she said she did. I asked if she only has one charge for $150 and she said yes. Not double charged. I could see if she was, and I don't even know how someone would make that mistake. So her boyfriend picks up the phone and yells at me, explaining that the bank took the money 5 days ago, but yesterday they got the money back and then today the bank reposted the charges. All nothing to do with me, just the way her bank processed the charges, I guess, but the guest had a fit. The whole "I am going to have your job, call corporate, the bank and the president." Because they were charged for 2 nights they stayed at the agreed upon rate. I just don't understand. Of all the smoking fees, I didn't smoke in the room, and even claims people didn't stay. I checked you in, on camera with a chip and your signature, but never this. Not a hotel but still a front desk, so hopefully it counts. A couple years ago I used to work the front desk of my university's library. One day a stranger not affiliated with the university comes in. Seeing how we are a public university, it's not uncommon for others to come in, but usually it's for our public computers or research. Instead, this man comes up to me and asks if the library has a PA system. I tell him it does, although we only really use to warn people it is closing time. He explains that he's lost his friends and wants us to use the PA system to call them to the front desk. In my head I'm thinking this isn't a supermarket. So I tell him no, we can't use the equipment for such a reason. He seems a bit disappointed but understands and leaves. Maybe about 20 minutes later he is back, and this time he has a much more serious look on his face. He tells me that there is a suspicious man with a stranger device that he believes to be bomb. For a bit I don't respond. I'm just shocked that this guy believes that someone would want to blow up a public university library. I point towards the security officer on hand and nonchalantly say, "Tell security." The man gives me a rather surprised look. He seems shocked and insulted I'm not taking his bomb threat seriously. So he goes over to security and tells them the same thing he told me. While security looks into the matter, the stranger comes back to the desk and explains me that we should discreetly start moving people out of the building. For context, our library has 8 floors plus a basement. I don't know how this man expects us to discreetly move a couple hundred people out of her only entrance/exit. Security hasn't come back yet and the stranger is nervously moving around in front of me. Annoyed, I finally get up to see what all the fuss is about. I go to the public computers and lo and behold I see a very old man listening to music on an equally old radio. I'm guessing this stranger, who looked to be about mid-20s, had never seen an antenna before and the sight of it terrified him. TLDR, a guy thought an old radio was a bomb. In 2nd grade at J.J. Pershing Elementary, Dist, California, 1980/81. The first parent conferences were coming up near Halloween, so the teacher wanted some art to hang up. She ordered us to draw a man with 2 orange heads. Everyone else drew a man with 2 heads. Symmetry was shoot. Art is hard, 7-year-olds suck. So I thought about it, and drew a man. He was a normal one-headed man. And, in each hand, he held one jack-o'-lantern by the stem. A man. With 2 orange heads. I was proud. It was symmetrical, and some of my finer artwork, I wasn't that good. Again, 7-year-old. The teacher flipped out. She sent me to the principal, complained about my disruptive behavior and insubordination, so the principal paddled me. The law at the time required parental notification, but not permission, but they failed to comply with the steps that make assault on a child a legal act. I had complied, and my teacher thought it malicious. I've hated school ever since. I will freely admit that I am a picky eater. You want me to try a new type of food and I'll shy away from it. When I moved out of the house, I was finally able to control what I ate and I was pretty happy with it. Then came the time to cook spaghetti. I had asked my mother for the recipe and she sent it along. I went shopping for the ingredients. Got the meat, the pasta and the tomato sauce. I hated onions so I left that out. When I told my mother that I didn't buy one, she warned me to go out and buy one before cooking. I just laughed it off and said no. She then asked me to Skype with them when I was finished. In hindsight, I should have picked up the warning sign there. Sure enough, I finished cooking my onion-less spaghetti, sat down in front of my computer and Skype called my parents. My mother had an especially big smile when I took my first bite. I chewed on it and realized why onions were necessary to the recipe. Turns out, they add a lot of flavor and moisture to the dish and what I was left with was a dry, bland dish. You'll be happy to know that my mother dined out on that, pun was unintentional, for months afterwards. From then on, always followed the recipe. I work for a vehicle manufacturer, so if people have problems with their vehicles or a dealership, they call us. A couple brought their vehicle into a private shop for some work. The wife says she received a call that her car was ready for pickup. She goes in, but the car isn't ready. The guy in the shop said that she was wrong, that he was the only one up front for that day and he didn't call her. That's what she tells her husband. The husband calls us, looking to get the shop employee that told his wife the car wasn't ready punished, or better yet, fired because no one wastes my time or calls my wife a liar. She's as pure as the Virgin Mary. I explain that because they took it to a private shop, there is no business connection between the shop and the manufacturer, so we can't do anything. The shop employees are not our employees, so we can't penalize or punish them in any way. I suggested he call the shop for clarification. I already called those idiots, they don't know anything. I want a full investigation into this matter or will never buy from your company again. A full investigation. For a miscommunication. About when to get your car from the shop. I told him again that there's nothing we can do for him. He proclaimed that he'd put out a media story that would destroy us because he knew someone who worked at a TV studio. I told him that I couldn't stop him and he hung up. I typically don't like attention. Yet since freshman year, I've gotten nothing but admirers. It wasn't quite the dream though. I tend to attract guys that I find, for lack of a better word, gross and dumb. They have no idea about boundaries, nor hygiene. People who I did like never seem to feel the same. This one boy stands out like a sore thumb because I once told this story on a YouTube video. I was however urged to delete it because of some of the information I said. So hopefully this won't follow suit. This started when I was around 14 to early 15 years old. For some quick context, I am autistic and use a classroom called BMC. This classroom was made for kids who needed help with emotional issues such as anger or depression. I only ever went to this classroom when I needed a break away from the kids in the hectic classrooms or when I was agitated. I never really talked to anyone in the classroom other than the staff. There were always at least 2 or 3 teachers in there to make sure none of these kids went too crazy. Some were chill, but a lot of them were crazy and hyper. I, most of the time, listened to music while working. Because of this, I was shut off from the craziness and just was in my own world. One day, one of these kids who we will call Jack, came out to my spot on the bus stop. I ride the special need bus because regular ones are typically too crazy and are crowded. But the bus I rode parked at the farthest end of the bus loop. So I normally wait by the trees nearby while listening to music and sing. When Jack came up to me, I was kinda surprised. He said that he had a crush on me, despite us never talking prior to this point. That was one warning sign I ignored. The second was that he asked if I wanted to go with him to prom. He was a senior. What made it even worse was that when my bus finally showed up, I gave him my number and told him bye. What he said back made me want to vomit. He said with no hesitations, "I love you." The literal minute I sit down on the bus, he starts spamming me with texts. At one point, I muted his texts and they'd still blow up my phone. Eventually, I told my parents and BMC manager what he was doing. They told me he was 18 and that what he was doing could be considered illegal. I immediately blocked him on every platform I owned. I thought that would be the end of it, but sadly not. He would occasionally try and talk to me again. At first, I tried to be nice about rejecting him, but by the third or fourth time, I grew sick of it. I told him that if he kept it up, I would tell my parents and they would call the police. He left me alone for a long time after that. But this whole experience taught me to trust my gut because he was literally trying to date a 14-year-old girl. I hope this tells you all that no matter what, it is okay to listen to your gut. Otherwise you could end up in a very scary or uncomfortable scenario. I broke my arm on Sunday, so I had to stay for a few days in the hospital. When I slept I had to rest my arm on a large pillow. My family wanted me to be comfortable at home, so they decided to switch my bed with a larger one. And that's when an FU happened. You see, I keep my vibrator in a drawer under my bed. It is usually in a small bag, so I thought they might mistake it for a battery or something similar. In that same drawer, I have a large yellow box. They switched my bed on Sunday, but I came home today. And boy, oh boy, the vibrator is nowhere to be found. They left the large yellow box on my table, so I know they must have found it as well. I searched all over the house and there's no sign of it. I think I'll never be able to look my family in the eyes again. Note: some of my family members are fairly religious, so it is possible that someone hid it from them or threw it away. TL, Doctor, my family found the vibrator I keep under my bed. Don't think I'll ever make eye contact, at least not in this life. Haha. So, like many people, the pandemic has me out of work. I live in a small country suburban area that has been steadily growing for the last few years. We just got a Walmart maybe 5 years ago. I used to deliver pizzas, and though I told myself I will never do that to myself again, I am considering it again. After checking this sub out for a bit, it kind of seems like business is starting to plummet a little, whereas it was great when shelter-in-place orders first started happening. How would you rate your level of business to tips acquired in a suburban/country type town? Is it better, worse, or about the same as non-pandemic times? Edit: we have a 13 K-pop where I am. So last night my partner went grocery shopping. We do this twice a week. He's a fairly tall guy, over 6 feet, and he does dress nice. Usually golf attire complete with a golf hat. Although he dresses nice, his outfit does not even come close to looking like the grocery store's uniform. Plus the employees don't wear hats. So he's strolling along with his cart and some old lady is asking him about cherries or something dumb. He explains he doesn't know and doesn't work here and moves on. Then he gets to the fish section and again another old lady asks him about food and yet again he explains that he doesn't know and doesn't work here. It's strange enough that several people have already thought he worked there. Imagine a guy dressed up in golf attire, pushing a full shopping cart and clearly shopping. It's pretty obvious he's a customer shopping there. Then he hears it. A very Karen "excuse me." At this point he's near the deli section and obviously assumes this lady is speaking to someone else, so he doesn't turn to face her. He continues shopping until he hears it again, even louder this time. This lady is basically screaming at this point. After she screams it several times he finally looks over and there's a line up at the deli with no one working there. The lady keeps screaming "excuse me" at him, and when he looked up she angry asked him if he was going to help them. At this point my partner is pretty fed up and yells back at her that he doesn't work there. She gets all huffy about it. Funny enough, an actual employee witnessed the whole thing and laughed at him. The employee was able to get the deli worker back to his station to help the very angry line of customers. Not the most exciting story, but I'm always baffled how someone would mistake others for working there. I couldn't believe my partner when he told me this story and said so many people thought he worked there. So strange. I think this pandemic has everyone going crazy right now. Disclaimer: not 100% accurate dialogue as it's based off of memory. This happened last week. I get a ticket from a guy who needs his Windows reinstalled because of some weird error where he can't log on. Fine, that's easy enough. I drive to his location and talk to him and do the basic troubleshooting stuff to see if it's just the user's fault or a random error. After 10 minutes of trying different things I come to the conclusion that the machine has failed at some point when it was imaged. He had just got a new image the day before. This happens sometimes and the solution is to just issue a new image. Conversation: ME, I'll take the machine back to our office and put a new image on it, it'll be done by tomorrow morning. User: awesome. Insert joke number 3245 about, guess I'll go home then he xt. Next day. I pull up Skype and find the guy on there. He was using another computer that he lent from a coworker that was not at the office. Conversation. Me, hey! Your machine is ready to be delivered. I've tested it and it works perfectly. When can I drop it off? User, what? I think you must have got the wrong guy. At this point I thought I must have contacted a guy with the same name, but no, the ticket was that exact name. Me, are you sure? It's the machine you couldn't log on to yesterday that I took with me. User, oh, yeah. Ha ha ha, sorry. Just swing by when you have time. I still have absolutely no idea what that was about, lol. When I was working at the Gap, there was, for a few months, a pregnant mom who would come in like every Thursday night. She never chatted with any of us when we'd ask her if she needed anything or how her selections were working in the fitting room. At first we just referred to her as the shy mommy, and she gained size over the weeks into the fall. Then, one evening while the shy mommy was walking out of a fitting room, a fellow associate noticed the sleeve of a shirt sticking out of the bottom of her maternity blouse, and things got interesting. The associate asked our manager to take a look and check with the woman, and upon asking her about the shirt sleeve, she bolted for the door in a very unpregnant way, to our surprise and shock. Security and the police were able to apprehend her, and they told my manager that this woman had been using a belly-shaped hollow-out pregnancy vest to steal clothing within the fitting room. We were shocked because it was such an ingenious idea, lol, smiley face. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about TJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ, and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. So in our location in Pennsylvania, we are moving to the green phase. After months of restrictions from red phase to yellow, we only had 22 cases of people who had the virus, and every single one of them has gotten better, which is really exciting. Our boss informed us yesterday that we will be reopening next week. I've been waiting so long to hear this and I thought I'd be more excited, but I know it won't be the same, and I think that's why I'm really bummed. Not everyone will come back. We will have no new movies and having to wear masks and gloves for entire shifts. It may be too soon, I don't know. I really thought I was going to be more excited. I think I'm afraid to see how different it's going to be. I know for one thing we are lucky to be reopening though. A lot of theaters/businesses are staying permanently closed from being closed for so long, and there was a huge chance we would have to as an independent theater. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance, but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the imps got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. I just had someone walk into my hotel a little while ago. Here's how the interaction went. Me: "Hey there. How are you tonight?" Him: "I'm doing alright. I have a question for ya." Me: "Sure, what's up?" Him: "I just booked a room on third-party booking site / but it's in the wrong town, so what can we do about that?" Me: "Well, I can't make any changes to third-party bookings, but especially if they aren't at this hotel. I have a room I can sell you, but other hotels' bookings are not something I have access to. Where are you headed?" Him: "I came from city, 45 minutes north of my hotel / I'm headed to destination, 50 minutes northeast of my hotel / and they booked me a room in town that is 15 minutes away from his destination / Me: "Well sir, the town you're headed to is actually back the way you came from, and the town your hotel room is in is right next door." Him: No, it's southeast of here. So you can't cancel my room for me?" Me: "No sir, I can't." Him: "And I just have to call them?" Me: "Yes sir. I do not know their policies or if they would cancel for you for free, but they are who you need to call." Him: "Looks at phone, I'd kinda rather them just charge me anyway. What are your rates?" Me: "All I have tonight is 2 queens for 138 plus tax." Him: "Oh, that's way too high, I'll try somewhere else. Thanks." This guy was so turned around and wouldn't take a local's word that he was going the wrong way, and will probably pay for 2 hotel rooms tonight for no reason except his insistence on being right. I wish I could witness the moment when he realizes that he drove so far out of his way only to go back the way he came, pay for 2 rooms, and pass the hotel he was supposed to stay at originally that would have gotten him to his destination within 15 minutes tomorrow morning. So today I went to Burlington Coat Factory to try to buy more black pants for work. I work 2 jobs and one requires black pants. Today I worked at Chipotle and after my shift I decided to check out the sale at Burlington Coat Factory. They are taking an additional 50% off almost everything in the store, so you can imagine how crazy it is in there. I was just in there minding my own business looking at the options available. I was also trying to avoid people too. Then out of nowhere a woman comes up to me with a shopping cart and asks, "Do you know how much this jacket costs?" I just looked at the tag and said it should be about $30.00. She then asked me, "Will it be 50% off at the register?" I told her it's possible, and I also pointed to the sign that says save an additional 50% off items at the cash register. She continues to ask me, "Are you sure?" I then proceeded to tell her, "Look lady, I do not work here." She just stared at me for a few seconds and proceeded on with her day. It's funny because while I was wearing all black clothing, I still had a shirt that said Chipotle. Anyways, I'm not sure how she did not see all the signs displayed at the store and outside the store. I didn't even end up buying my black pants because the line was super long and I didn't think it was worth waiting and to just try to buy them another day. I just started working at a call center. It's only been 2 days and I feel absolutely miserable. I haven't been able to make any appointments. That's how it works, appointments, and I feel like even if I make one I'll feel good for 3 minutes and afterwards back to feeling like shoot. Yesterday I almost cried at work BC I got really tired of calling people and not getting anywhere. I wake up in the morning and want to die thinking about my job. The pay is good but I cannot imagine myself working here even for a month. 8 hours of calling people, looking at the clock constantly, waiting for it to be over. I come home and just cry. God, it's awful. Update: I quit my job today and the convo was over in 2 minutes and I feel relieved. Thanks to everyone who commented. Earlier today I had a passenger board my bus through the back door. My bus system installed ropes in the front area to separate the front and back of the bus. Seniors and disabled people sit in the front, everyone else in the back. Well, this guy decided he wanted to sit in the front, so he jumped over the barricade to sit in the front. So I say, "Hey, what are you doing? Don't jump over the rope, man. If you want to sit in the front, board in the front." Well, he apparently didn't like that I spoke to him. He yelled, "Don't take that tone with me." I was confused, because I said what I said in a completely normal tone. So he sits down and apparently kept seething. He eventually starts yelling again. He says, "You are a public servant. You work for me, you don't get to talk to me like that." I'd had enough. So I say to him, "Sir, do you have a job?" He says, "No." "What does that have to do with anything?" I say, "Man, I'm the one with a job. I pay my taxes. My salary is paid by taxes. So if anything, I work for me." I should have stopped there, but I didn't. I then said, "You collect welfare, which is paid by taxpayers also. So really, when you think about it, you work for me." When I got back to the yard, my supervisor told me that I need to talk to the general manager in the morning. DL, Doctor, I let my temper flare up and insulted a customer for being poor. Update, apparently the manager just needed me to sign a paper for a pay discrepancy. They underpaid me by $40. Apparently the guy didn't report me. Degrees. Okay, so a short one, but I cannot believe myself. So I went to the tea store today to get my favorite oolong, loose leaf, because I ran out during quarantine and things are opening up where I am. The guy asks how much I want, and I blank. I know I got an ounce last time and I want more this time, and he offers 8 ounces. Because I cannot think of anything else, I say, "Sure, 8 ounces can't be that much, can it?" Well, he scoops some tea into the bag, and then keeps scooping, and suddenly I have a colossal bag of tea. Okay, 8 ounces is too much, but that's fine, I'll just take it. So I go to the register and he rings me up. 63. Again, I don't say anything, pay the 63 and leave the store. I get in my car and almost hit myself for being so dumb and socially awkward that I'd rather pay 63 for enough tea to last me a decade than just ask for a smaller amount. I am so dumb, and also broke now. But on the bright side, I will be drinking this oolong for the next 10 years. Smile. DL, Doctor, I paid 63 for 8 ounces of loose leaf tea instead of telling the employee at the tea shop that I thought 8 ounces was less and I want less tea. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit, I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby, so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. I posted yesterday about my fun call with a very /nice lady who told me to go flip myself. Well, today I spoke with a fun gentleman who advised me that his math is never wrong. Let's go ahead and begin. He got upset because he felt like he got charged more than he should have for his withdrawal. He went over the amount that he can take out for free, so we charged him. After explaining it to him for about 10 minutes of how our computer does the calculations for us and that it's pretty darn accurate. Even did the calculation myself, and I had it correct too. He proceeded to yell at me, telling me the last representative he spoke with should be fired as she gave him incorrect information. I responded with a very hearty no, telling him people can make mistakes. We're only human, no one's perfect. He proceeded to tell me he's perfect and the numbers and his math are never wrong. I chuckled, advised him if the numbers are never wrong, then that means ours are never wrong. The math is never wrong, right? He huffed and told me no, his math is never wrong. Uh-oh, we're speaking to a genius here. I advised him that I would put aside his math calculations and actually consider that, for once, he was wrong about something. He didn't like that one bit. He kept screaming at me, telling me he wants my name, his father is the CEO of a company and he can get me fired. Yeah, okay dude, I'm not giving you my name and this call is recorded. He was going to write in a complaint to the company to get the 2 idiots who work in your call center fired. I told him where he can send it to, and if he's done screaming and cussing at me so I can see if I can help him anymore. He kept interrupting me with that sort of mocking tone of voice, you know the one. Looking at the clock, it was almost 20 minutes past my time to clock out for the day. I advised him if he interrupts me one more time, I will disconnect the call and he would have to wait till tomorrow to complain to someone else about his problems. He interrupted me before I could finish my sentence, gave him a hearty goodbye and hung up the call to him screaming obscenities at me. I get that people are having problems here during this pandemic, but come on now. TLDR, client lights a cigarette, the automatic air freshener goes off, huge fireball, smoke alarm goes off, can't stop laughing at my client's face expression while his eyebrows and bit of hair got burned. So this happened 3 years ago. I was working as a banker, I had our biggest client in my office, the branch manager was on vacation, and he wasn't happy, bureaucracy what can I say, so he lights a cigarette. I didn't tell him it wasn't allowed, it was a power move anyway. The automatic air freshener goes off directly in his direction on the open flame, producing a huge fireball. The gas in it is flammable, my client's eyebrows and part of his hair get burned and shrink, and he's in shock of what happened because he didn't understand a thing. Colleagues run into my office, I'm in tears and can't breathe, I just couldn't stop laughing. The smoke alarm goes off, the fire department and the cops are called automatically. It was a huge flip-up, I had to fix a lot of things, but there was nothing I could do to keep the client, it was a big one. Pretty short one. I was meal prepping for my BF and I was cooking a ton of chicken tenderloins lol. Pretty fun time let me tell you/s. So I'm cooking and I've come to the last of the chicken after making his meals, and I was doing the last little bit to put in a large container and freeze. Anyway, as I'm cooking it's getting close to the time I had to leave for work so I just did one huge batch. Running out of time, I take the chicken right out of the oven, the hot-ass chicken and put it in the container and put it in the freezer. About an hour later I get a text saying babe did you put the chicken in the freezer hot? I said yeah, why? Well you cooked half of the pizza you put it on top of. And darn if I didn't feel like a dumbass. TL, doctor my dumbass cooked half a frozen pizza by putting a container of hot chicken in the freezer. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of U11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. This was a little while ago so it's all healed now. I love sour sweets, the sourer the better. In the UK we have sweets called toxic waste, individually wrapped boiled sweets coated in citric acid. You are supposed to have one as a dare. I ate the whole pack in an hour. Later that day, I couldn't taste anything, my teeth lost their enamel, and the skin inside my mouth was all white and mushy. Later again. The skin actually began to peel off, layers could be scraped off with a toothbrush. It was absolutely gross. I went to the dentist who explained I had just given myself chemical burns from all of the concentrated acid. I still have very sensitive teeth and things taste a bit different still, stronger I guess because of the new skin? DL, doctor, I burned off my skin with citric acid like an idiot. Well, it was technically last night, but oh well. So basically the way our house is set up, the only way to get to the loft is through my parents' room. That's where we keep spare toilet paper, so when we need to replace the roll in the bathroom, we'll go through my parents' room and up to the loft. Well, last night the roll in the upstairs bathroom was empty and I didn't want to go get the roll from the downstairs one because it's creepy and has spiders in there, so I decided to go to the loft. My dad was already asleep and my footsteps are relatively silent, so I was able to get to the other side of his room and through the door to the stairs with no issue. I got the toilet paper and started heading back down just as my mom was getting to bed. Now my mom is a lot louder than me, so she woke my dad up. Neither of them knew I was even upstairs, let alone in the loft. Just as I opened the door to the stairs, my dad was asking my mom if my brother and I were upstairs, so me not thinking answered yes and jump scared them both. They started freaking out and asking me what I was doing in their room and how long I had been there. I should mention now that the light was off and I'm black and was wearing dark pajamas, that plus their poor eyesight meant they weren't able to see me, so they didn't know I was there until I spoke. So yeah, I tried to explain to them that I was only getting toilet paper, but they wouldn't listen. They just kept yelling at me to get out of their room. So now they're convinced that I was camping in the loft so I could come down and watch them sleep? Yeah, they think I'm a total creep now. DL, doctor, toilet paper caused my parents to think I regularly watch them sleep. Edit, yep. My dad just done asked me if I'm gonna sneak into his room again. They think I sneak into their room to watch them sleep. I'll never come back from this. Today is my last day of school, as well as my last finals date. For those of you who don't know how finals work, we go by a block schedule, in which we start at 7:57 a.m., have one period for 2 hours, a 15-minute break in between, and the last period at 10:17, which lasts another 2 hours. The periods go in order, first and second on Tuesday, third and fourth on Wednesday, and fifth and sixth today. Due to the pandemic, a lot of my finals have been cancelled or reduced to a few questions with the ability to use notes. For my fifth period, which was the first class of the day, was one of those finals which got cancelled. All we had to do that day is have our group essays leaders turn in the group essay when the period began. What I didn't know was that there was supposed to be a Zoom meeting at the first 15 minutes of the period to take attendance for our last day, turn in the essays, say our goodbyes and leave. I woke up literally 40 minutes ago, with a spam of texts saying that I had missed the class, and that the teacher has marked me absent. There's currently nothing that I can do about it now. There's no going back. That absence is marked forever on my grades, and I'm dreading for my parents to see it. The worst part was that this specific teacher is one of my only teachers that holds me in high regards to my academic achievements. Out of her hundreds of students from many different class periods, she has chosen me for the Honors English Awards. I was picked out of 180 people, nominated me as a representative for my school. 3 people are chosen out of 370 people, give or take, for an essay contest, and has been my go-to for teacher recommendations on a few occasions. And her class is the only class I've missed. I didn't get to say goodbye, or a thank you, or anything. I feel terrible and plan to send her an email, but after all she's done for me, it's incredibly sad that I didn't even get to say goodbye for the simple reason of sleeping through the period. I woke up 5 minutes before the period ended, and now I'll never get the chance to thank her for all of it via Zoom. DL, Doctor, I sleep through a class final which was hosted by an important teacher of mine, causing me to get marked absent for half the school day with no exceptions, getting rid of my chances for getting to voice my thank yous on the last day I get to see her. Today I tried to ignore my body and paid the ultimate price. I was playing Guitar Hero doing exceptionally well and I simply couldn't be bothered to stop playing at all. I also had way too much to drink as I do get really thirsty whilst playing games. My family is small and the apartment has only one bathroom that we all share. My father decides to take a shower when my body decides it's time to flip me over. I rush to the bathroom door and hear the showers going, so I run back to my room and tried using an empty 1.5 liters Pepsi bottle. The problem here was I couldn't push it in as the hole was too small even for the tip. I guess the pressure of me trying to pee caused the bottle to drop on the floor with my urine still shooting. I had pee everywhere, on the wall, on my carpet. I spent so many hours cleaning that day. TL, Dr. Bathroom was busy, I held my pee too long and tried to pee in a bottle but failed and peed all over my room. Many years ago, hubby, now ex, and I were looking for living room furniture. One of the first stores we went in, we were honed in on by a salesman. No biggie, everybody has a job and is trying to make their bucks. However, this dude clearly thought my hubby was the sole decision maker. He completely ignored my thoughts and questions and spoke only to my husband. Hubby, to his credit, saw me giving the salesman the side eye, told the guy we had a couple of other stores we wanted to check out. Dude wanted to give us his business card. Since I was standing closest, I held my hand out for the card. This dude actually hesitated, like he didn't trust me with it. He finally gave it to me, then walked over to Hubs and gave him another one. I finally had reached my limit with this dude. I walked over to my ex, plucked the card out of his hand, put it with mine, and tore both of them into little bitty pieces. My ex laughed. Sales dude finally realized his mistake, his shoulders dropped and he walked away from us. Hope he learned his lesson. So a lot of my past posts have been about how much I hate my job and how the owner doesn't trust me, and a lot of you all have told me to try and find another job but I would feel guilty. Before Corona happens, my boss hired 3 new kitchen workers. They are all from Mexico, 19 to 22-year-old, they speak zero English. They are all illegal. Most of the workers he hired are either with working visas or no visas and seem to come and go. They are some of the most hard-working guys we've had and I've been there for 4.5 years. If you ask them to do something they never say no or buts, or ifs. They make it happen one way or another. I had to be a trainer and train them in the kitchen because of the language barrier of them not knowing English or my boss knowing Spanish. They got the whole menu down within days. After a couple weeks I've noticed the boss was yelling at them every day for no reason. If the boss needed to say something he wouldn't come get me to translate, he would just yell all day. We've even had customers complain BC of the yelling he's thrown/slammed dishes at them or yell for the tiniest reason, so I made it upon myself to stand up for them and tell him off. Now that he knows that I'm on his back, he wasn't such a ass to them as much. Due to Corona I was off for about 3 months. I assumed most of the staff was off but they weren't. They worked every day, which was good cause they made money. On my first day back I've noticed he would make fun of them even more and even call them different Hispanic names. He would joke with them in a racist way which wasn't funny at all. He jokes about calling immigration on them or even the police. He even once brought in a sombrero and put it on them. It's gotten so bad where he's using racial slurs. The workers don't stand up. BC they don't understand or afraid that they'd all get fired or that he would actually call immigration. They ask me to translate for them but I don't feel right repeating his racist ass words. Ever since he's been owning the place I just dread coming in, but if I quit I feel it's going to get worse and I would feel guilty for just abandoning them. The boss can be nice at time and care for all of us, but when he wears his racist hat there is no going back. I'm torn with what to do and I just don't know what to say to him to make him stop. Any advice? Got a call this evening asking for menu item 2B. I was caught off guard, as we have a very nice menu featuring an almost terrifying array of entrees, and even complete meal options for 2 to 5 people. But we have no outline format to speak of. I relayed this to my customer. She told me, "You must not be very familiar with the menu. Lady, I'm looking at the new menu right here with you. Even the old menu didn't have the weird shorthand you're asking for." Long story short, lady was looking at Yelp. I gave her a restaurant website to avoid confusion in the future. She tipped almost 20%, despite being pretty snippy. Sad bit is we have the same first name. So now I hate both Rubiscos for having been to her restaurant today. Not me, but witnessed my bar manager go through this. Customer, excuse me, I've been waiting ages and you served everyone except me. Bar manager, I'm sorry love, what do you want? C, I'm not your love. Stares. BM, I'm sorry, can I get you anything? C, I think it's awful how you ignore customers who have been waiting for so long. BM, I didn't realize you had been waiting so long, what can I get you? C, well, I think this is awful, 5 people must have come after me and been served. BM, I apologize again, I'll get you your drinks now, what would you like? C, for free? BM, sorry, I can't do them for free. C, why not? I've had to wait for so long, it's the least you can do. BM, I don't think it works like that, do you want any drinks or not? C, of course I do, why do you think I was waiting at the bar? But I don't think I should have to pay. BM, you can either buy a drink or stand away from the bar, I'm afraid, that's all we can offer. C. Fine. But I don't want you to serve me. BM. Why not? C. Because you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing. BM. Well, everyone else here didn't serve you fast enough either, what difference does it make who pours your drinks? C. Well, I've just said, anyone but you. Now get somebody else. BM. Well, the other staff are busy mixing drinks, so you'll have to wait if you want them. C. Are you kidding? Flip you. BM. Flip me? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Commence ranting and shouting, followed by the bouncer escorting her out.